Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farbach. The European Commission investigation has confirmed that Hungarian intelligence officers operating from the country's diplomatic mission in Brussels sought to gather information from EU officials over several years, reopening questions about trust and security inside the European institutions. The findings come as Hungary's new government continues investigating alleged abuses linked to the Orbán-era, while fresh domestic political developments are reshaping the country's landscape. We'll discuss it all further now with Péter Balázs, former European Commissioner and former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Hungary. Good to have you back with us on TVP World. Welcome.
Good morning.
So I'd like to call on your experience now as former Commissioner of Hungary to the European Union. Looking at these allegations, whatever we have, which is confirmed true or not, how damaging is this information currently to Hungary and also trust in the diplomatic services?
Well, I think this old story, which goes back, it's roughly 10 years old now, but has been summarized by the competent commissioner of the European Commission, reflects or shows something about the nature of the Orban government, how they tried to acquire some information, which is absolutely nonsense in the context of the European Union, which is the most open international organization in the world. So you can know everything. You don't need confidential channels because everything is public. And even more for the member states of the European Union, because the permanent representation, its head, the EU ambassador of the country, is involved in every movement which concerns the country. So I was surprised in seeing that a very funny attempt of the Orban government in the last decade to find out some insider informations. But the basis of all that is a conflict situation. And I think this was the motivation for Orban and his competent minister, Lazar, to make such inappropriate attempts, because this government was in conflict with the European Union. There were various procedures because of rule of law deficiencies in Hungary.
And also, I mean, listening to you now at the same time, what about accountability in all this? Where do we stand in terms of, are the mechanisms in place now? If this is followed up, is accountability in the mechanisms, are they sufficient to track this and to be, let's say, pursue this where we need to be?
Well, I think the whole story was an intra-Hungarian story. It was Hungarian diplomats in the framework of the EU permanent representation tried to approach Hungarian citizens as officials of the European Commission. So, but those EU officials coming from Hungary didn't want to cooperate with the Orban government. They reported to the competent services, security services within the Commission, and refused that kind of closer cooperation beyond the normal exchange of information.
Mm-hmm. And the, I think, involvement here of the Hungarian Commissioner, still Olivier Várhelyi here. Any complicity here? What do we make of his involvement? How do we keep him to account?
Well, some people raise the responsibility and the involvement of Olivier Várhelyi, who used to be the head of the EU permanent representation before becoming an EU commissioner. But he has been with the EU Commission since 2009. He is serving his second mandate over there. So back in time, of course, he was the boss of those diplomats. But let me add that the EU representation of Hungary in Brussels is by far the biggest foreign representation of the country. with more than 100 people. So the head of a huge big service cannot be kept responsible for the daily actions of all those 100 and more people.
Let's stay on representation and diplomacy as well for Hungary. Let's go to the former foreign minister, Mr. Péter Szijjártó, and also these reports that we're hearing that he's spent around 5.6 million euros on charter flights. If we're looking at his own activities in 2025, what do you say to that? I mean, some of these flights apparently were close by, Bratislava, Vienna. What does this tell us about the previous Orbán government, just generally of his activities?
Well, this is one of the scandals of the previous Orbán government, now investigated by the new Visa government in Hungary. Yes, this is Péter Szijjártó preferred hiring a luxury private jet, not even using the government planes. The government has now two official planes which can serve a government member and other dignitaries, but even that was too common for him, and he took a luxury private plane flying to remote places, but also, as you said, to very close destinations like Bratislava or Vienna. A small distance. This is more or less the Brussels-The Hague distance, so you can do it by car in a few hours, and the minister could have an official police escort speeding up his travel. Yes, this was clear luxury, spending a lot of public money. Let me add that when I used to minister, by that time the Hungarian government didn't have any special government plane. I could do all my job with regular flights all over the globe without difficulties. Let me add that the most time you waste by flying is the time you spend at the airport, queuing up, waiting, and so on. But a minister doesn't have to wait. There is a special VIP and they bring the minister in the very last minute to the plane before departure, so he can have a direct access, and the same goes at the arrival. After landing, the minister is taken out from the plane and he can drop to his destination.
Yeah. Just when you mentioned that, I'm just reminded also of that recent trip, and that will be my next question. Péter Magyar, his first official trip was to Poland. I remember he was taking that train across Poland, so I think that also stuck with us. But on that fact, let's look at this. We've got information here from HVG. This is coming from Wednesday this week. There's polling here that was done by Median, which found 73% of voters are in support of TISA at the moment, and also the new government, with about 21% supporting Fidesz. So looking at those numbers is one poll, but generally, how would you assess currently the mood, let's say the satisfaction or dissatisfaction of Hungarians right now? Is Péter Magyar, is he doing what he set out to do? I mean, it's early days, but what do you make of it so far?
Well, the elections took place 12th of April, and resulted in a huge, big, more than two-thirds majority of Péter Magyar and his party. Since then, what you have mentioned, his advantage has even further increased, and Fidesz is declining at the same time in public opinion polls. So this is I would say, the honeymoon, the new government, which acts properly and which is takes action in line with its program. So they started with one of the most urgent and most sensitive issues, bringing home the suspended EU funds. which Orban has nearly lost because of rule of law deficiencies in the country. Now Péter Magyar has it, and there are good chances that most part of that suspended money will come home. At the same time, they are investigating several corruption issues in the country, and one after the other, very tricky and sensitive dossiers are coming out. And they proceed properly according to a rule of law country. So the public is crossing fingers for this government, and we are waiting for further successes.
Yeah, indeed, and we'll be keeping up on tabs on those successes as it develops in Hungary and beyond your look. Thank you so much, Péter Balázs, there, former European Commissioner for Hungary and former Foreign Minister. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
And thank you for watching World Talks, but stay right here. There's much more coming up on TVP World, so don't go away.